We are here with another juicy episode of I Come First. Hi, it's your host, Amie Barsky, and today we have Casey Warwick in the hot seat. Casey is shaking things up when it comes to the world of women in business, tossing aside the old paradigm that you have to hustle harder and do more to succeed. Casey's got a different approach. She's going to share her journey to success where intuition and energetics are front and center when it comes to thriving in her multi-six-figure business. But that's not all. Casey's got the inside scoop on the number one block women face when aiming for that next level in business. And of course, she's dishing out the tips to overcome it. As a business embodiment coach, Casey's all about helping women unlock their full potential and thrive in both their personal and professional lives. So get ready, grab a cup of cacao or your favorite beverage, and let's dive in. Casey, oh my gosh, it's been quite some time and it is so good to see you. Thank you for joining us today. Can we just kind of get right to it? I'd love to hear a bit of an overview of your journey on becoming a beautiful business embodiment coach.
Yeah, my journey was definitely one that was, I guess, long-winded, but we got there in the end. So I started in the military, and when I was about 18, I suffered a chronic back injury, and I still have this injury to this day. And so it was one of those things where it was a massive catalyst for my life, and I didn't actually realize at the time. So I was medically discharged, and my intention of joining the military was always to be a personal trainer inside the military.
Oh, wow.
And so when it didn't happen, I was like depressed, anxious. I had all the things that came up. And long story short, about maybe 3 years after this happened, after my discharge, I gained a whole heap of weight. And my partner at the time had told me I was quite overweight, and it shattered me. I was like, he said it not so nicely. And he's like, well, you can complain about it or you can do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of was like the moment where I was like, holy moly, I am such a victim. Like, I really am doing this. And it ignited the part of me that wanted to be a personal trainer. And so I joined a boot camp. Everyone at the boot camp was going, oh my God, you should be a personal trainer. You're so encouraging. You really love people. And I was like, oh my God, this was my dream. And so long story short, I became one. And I was a personal trainer, had a successful business for about 7 years. And through that journey, I really struggled getting to the successful business. And I realized underneath it that, you know, as I was discovering my journey as a business owner, as I was watching my clients, I was like, no one's coming into the gym because they need a trainer. They're coming into the gym because of what's going on between their mind. Just like me with my business. I don't know what to do. I need support. And like, I do know what to do, but the mental blocks was telling me I don't know what to do.
Got it.
And so long story short, I was like, through my journey of learning what I need to do and grow as a business person, I started really uncovering my own trauma. I started really uncovering my own stuff from my childhood, from my military career, from the men that I'd attracted, from all the stories that I'd had. And I realized that what I was doing in business was actually a reflection of who I was as a woman. It wasn't anything to do with my strategy. It wasn't anything to do with how I was showing up in business. It was all the stuff that was energetically going on for me. And so I transitioned my career at first to helping women understanding themselves.
Okay.
And really coming into themselves and relationships and all those sorts of things. But I still had such a passion for business, right? And I started noticing that the women that I really got big results with were the women who were also in business. They wanted more out of life and they were willing to look. They were willing to see what was underneath, what was going on, and all of these different pieces. And so I sort of just started transitioning my business toward that. And so my work became, you know, everything touches everything. Embodiment of business is who you are as a woman. And over time, that just, you know, expanded. And now it's like when a woman comes into my world, we're not just looking at your strategy in business. We're not just looking at the tiny little micro moments of you in business. We're looking at the holistic view of you because if something's going on in your relationship, it's going to show up in your business. Yeah, if something's going on in your, like, you know, just say you've had an argument with your child or something like that, it affects your ability to show up in your business. All these things. Yeah. And so it just became a progression.
I love that. And I
Yeah.
really love you used the word willingness. Like these women that you were attracting, they were willing to look under every stone and peek in all the closets and see what's there, because that's, in my opinion, what it takes. It takes the willingness to change, right? We can have all the information in our head. Oh, I know, I read all the books and I did all the podcasts and I did all the workshops and things. And am I taking that into my daily life? Am I making the shift on the daily? Am I doing the tiny micro things that affect the giant macro? I love that you said when it comes to, it wasn't about strategies or number crunching or spreadsheets. It was the internal landscape that's happening within our nervous systems, within our bodies, within our, you know, that energetic connection, because we're electricity. We're energy that's constantly shifting and moving and playing and dancing and maybe even collapsing and shutting down and shutting off. And so it's that whole game, you know?
Yeah. I think for me, the biggest part on that was not actually realizing the depth of it until I started healing so much. I was getting such big physical results. So just to give some insight to this,
Yeah.
at 18, I was also diagnosed infertile.
Okay.
So they said to me, if I didn't have a baby by the time I was like 23, I would be infertile. I was like borderline at 18. And then by 23, if I didn't have a baby, I would be infertile. And that I was that person who ran the gauntlet with this because I wanted to test the theory. So I wasn't exactly safe. I wasn't looking after, you know, a young woman's body to protect herself. You know, I was with partners and stuff at the time, and I would just be like, oh, it doesn't matter. I'm infertile anyway, you know? And I never felt pregnant. So I just believed it. I was just
Of
like, yeah,
course.
okay. Yeah. But then the deeper I went into my journey, and I actually came to this realization that that was a huge protection.
Oh,
So it was like, I didn't want to live the childhood I'd lived. I didn't want my child to live the childhood I lived.
correct.
So I created this whole narrative that I wouldn't have children, so they wouldn't have to walk through that. And when I started healing my own inner child, when I started healing my own work, I realized that the deepest desire I had was I wanted to be a mom.
Mm.
I had just hidden that so much from everyone because it was easier to say I'm focusing on my career
Yeah.
than it was to say I'm focusing on motherhood. And so when I first admitted that to my partner, he was the first person I ever admitted that to on our first date of all places.
You're like, by the way.
Yeah. I was like, I just realized I want to have kids. But
Please pass the
it really
salt.
opened a portal for me because I was like, if I'm going to walk into this relationship, I can't leave anything on the table. And I'd already been through domestic violence. I'd been through, you know, toxic, heavy relationships. And I was like, I just get to really be myself here. And if they're not going to meet me, that's okay. It's part of my journey to heal this piece.
Yeah.
And so it was like really fast. The more honest I got with myself, the quicker it happened. And within 6 months, I was pregnant.
Wow. Wow. And
Yeah.
the fact that, you know, one, so much awareness around what was coming up for you, and then to really say, you know what, I get to get radically honest with myself here. Because so many of us, and I'm pointing the finger right back at myself at many times in my own life, that I was afraid to actually be radically honest with myself. And if we can't be honest with ourselves, then who the fuck can we be honest with, right? And so it's that
100%.
journey, because it's scary to own the truth, like to say it and own it and be in your shit with the truth. It can feel really scary. It can feel really alone. It can feel really isolating. It can feel really just like a lot of fear and anxiety, you know?
I think that was the biggest thing for me was because I had this constant narrative that if I spoke my truth, I was the crazy woman.
Well, there, you know,
And not every woman feels that, right? Like,
I think we also get to
astonishing.
own our crazy. I was having this conversation the other day. Like women, and I guess I can really only just speak for myself, but I'm a little crazy. I'm not going to deny it. Like I'm a little fucking crazy, and I'm going to own it.
I am that shit fucking crazy.
Okay, good.
I mean, like yesterday, Vane called me crazy. I was like, oh my God, you're crazy. I'm like, I know I am. And I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, but I think when I realized that my crazy was my intuition.
Ooh, tell me
And
more about that. How
yeah,
did that connection happen?
well, so long story short, but real short. So I'd done all this work, right, and thought I was completely fucking all over
Yeah.
it. I knew the feminine, blah blah blah. And I track this man who is like, will do anything for me, right? Drops the hat, like, you know, like he was just like, sorry, I don't know that saying, but like he's just straight away there. Like anytime I need anything, right? He was amazing. And I was like, this is incredible. And so with chance, we're planning to move in together and the whole lot happened. And like a week before we moved in together, we had this massive argument where I called him out on a huge lie. And I had this piece drop in of going, he's not the one. Don't move in with him. There's something bigger at play here.
Wow.
And at the time, I'd already given up my house and I'd already like, you know, made arrangements to move and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, this is just your fear, Casey. You know, this happens when you have an upper limit. And I talked myself out of that voice. I mean, the night I moved in there, I didn't know at the time he was a raging closet alcoholic.
Well, I
And
mean, it's
so the
only
night I
been 2
moved in
months.
there,
2 months isn't very long.
exactly, no. Oh, and at the time I thought 2 months was all you needed to know because I was in self-development, right? And like everyone's so honest in that world. Anyway, long story short, I move in there and I'm literally the day I'm moving in, I'm unpacking the cutlery drawer. And he comes up and he goes to me, you mind if I go to the pub? And I was like, just moved in. Like, can we just have the night here and just unpack? And it was like, well, you're here now. It doesn't matter. And those words just rocked me. And instead of being like, I started crying and I was like, in my head, because I was so trying to be feminine, I was like, oh, I don't want to control him. Let him do what he needs to do. Like, blah, 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 blah. He needs space and he needs freedom. And so I completely denied my needs in that moment.
Mm.
And what happened through that was like, we ended up having a bit of an argument and I was like, just go, that's fine, just go. I don't want to control you. And I said those words, but that became a pattern. I got to the point where and I started to notice it was every full moon that, yeah, it was really strong. He would like lash out, like he would lie to me about where he was. He would go off drinking. I wouldn't be able to find him. Like I picked him up out of the gutter at the front of pubs, like in my pajamas. Like it was just horrible. And anyway, we got to this point where his brother was about to go to court for his ice addiction because this was running in the family, obviously, these behaviors. And it was the day before his court case. And he said, oh, do you mind if I take him out for dinner? We'll just go down to the local pub before we go. And I said to him, I was like, do you really think it's smart to take an addict to a pub the night before he goes? Oh, it was not a court case, though, it was a rehab. Before he goes to rehab. He goes, oh, it's just fine. We'll go out and we'll come straight home. Anyway, that night was the night that completely changed my life because they didn't come home. And that was the night I found him passed out in the gutter at the front of a pub. And I picked him up and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, do you know who I am? I can't be with someone like you. This is just ruining my life. By this stage, I had completely ruined my business. My 6-figure business was down to 3 clients a week, which was earning $150 a time. I was like, just shattered. Like I didn't know what was going on because I'd been lied to so much. I didn't trust myself anymore. And anyway, I dragged him into the car, and as we got home, I said to him, I can't fucking do this anymore. I'm so done with this. And he grabbed me, spat me in my face, pushed me up against the wall and like choked me against the wall. And the next morning he tried to deny the whole thing. And like was like, you're making this up. I would never do this, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, why would I make that up? For one? Why would I feel so fucking traumatized? Like I went and stayed at my mum's. I was like, I didn't come back after that. And that's when he goes, well, I'll do the work. I'll do some stuff to get working. And my intuition was like, just leave. And then this other voice was like, but if he wants to do the work, he can change. So stupid me. Decided to stay, right? But I stayed with the proviso that I would move out because I didn't feel safe in the house.
Yeah.
But what I didn't realize at the time was I was separating safely. But anyway, to cut a long story very short, when I finally left him, because I caught him lying to me again, he was telling me he was at home. Excuse me. When I was actually at his house and he wasn't there. And it was just like pathological lies. When I finally got there, I just was like, what am I doing? Like, why am I here? Like, why am I allowing this for one?
Yeah.
And I made the promise to myself in that moment. I was like, I will never not listen to that voice again.
Good. Good for you.
Like I'd had multiple moments like in my life over and over again that were not probably at that level, but they were pretty loud.
Yeah.
But that was like the strongest one. And now if you ask Gabain, he's like, oh man, that voice fucking rules my relationship. Because I'm just so strong in it. But you know, it's created so much success in my world from listening to it. Like,
and so many women are disconnected from their intuition. I know I was. For most of my life, I lived from the neck up. Like I had zero relationship with my body with, regards to intuition and felt senses and listening to what's nothing at all. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, I was even a personal trainer.
Yeah.
Teaching people how to connect to their bodies and had no
I was a dancer for most of my life, right? A gymnast, a dancer, taught yoga and Pilates, all the things. And that was I feel like when we're in that field of work, sometimes it's a level of a performance too. Right?
Oh,
the expectation of this is how you're supposed to behave or look or all, fit in the box, get in the box, fit in the box. And so, it took me, a fair amount of time to truly connect my intuition and listen. And it's a beautiful, beautiful gift that so many women are disconnected from. And it is a practice. It is a practice. And it starts with small things, So as we kind of navigate this conversation moving forward around like the women that you work with, I know you pretty well, and you've worked with women all over the world with so much diversity and culture, backgrounds, and all kinds of things. Is there, in your opinion and your expertise, a theme of like a number one block of why women find that they can't overcome this one particular hump in their business, or like to get to what they really want? Like, is there a theme that you find like, oh, that's kind of the common one?
Yeah, it's similar to the voice, but it's different. Okay. So what I often find, and Alex Hormozi talks about this, and this is where I kind of understood the concept deeper, because the work that I'd done with a lot of women, I realized like they all had one person in their life that knocked them down.
Ooh.
Right? And when they lent into success, that person's voice would be the first one that they thought of. And sometimes it was their mom.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it was their dad. Sometimes it was their auntie. Sometimes it was their ex. Like there's so many different variations of who this person is. But usually when we think of, like, we call it our ego and we call it all these things. And yeah, that's true to some extent. But it's like their voice became our ego. Their voice became our protection. Their voice became the reason why we don't want to succeed. And we then hold that somatically. So rather than going, so just say hypothetically you were told, oh, you'll never succeed as a kid, right? Even if you know that consciously from your parent, right? You're like, okay, I know that my mom used to say that to me. She used to say to me, keep safe, get a normal job, blah, 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 all the things. It's very easy to be like, yeah, I know that's mother's voice, right? I can recognize it. I can differentiate it. But the way the body holds it is so different.
Mm.
So this stores in our electromagnetic field. And so whenever we're holding this vibration and this frequency, we keep attracting all these scenarios that allow us to not succeed because we're still energetically in that frequency, right? And so
Yep.
Abraham Hicks talks about being in the vortex. I don't know if you know of any of her work, but I love her work so much. It's great. And the one thing I find is like, we're sitting here and we're often in this mental masturbation of what manifestation be, because they're like, I should probably get in the vortex. And this is not to mock her work in any way, because I absolutely adore this woman. But it's like a lot of people get this false sense of manifestation is I
Correct.
just got to focus on the positive,
Correct.
right?
That was me for quite some time. I was like 365,
Yeah.
24/7. I have to be happy. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
It did not work.
Yeah, this fake positive narrative. And like, look, the levels of work that you and I have done, like we've done it alongside each other. So I know where you've gone, you know where I've gone. And the one thing that like I know is like, when we face off with the pieces that are in our field, like truthfully, not just like, oh yeah, I know that's there, so I'm just going to focus on the positive. Like when we go there and actually allow it to be felt, allow it to be healed, allow it to like come up in its fullness, it no longer has power over you. Because, here's an example that I had just with a client literally yesterday. I've been working with her for 3 years. And her whole thing was like, she wanted to manifest the love of her life. And she was always coming into me with something new, something new, something new. And I was like, and I'd say to her from the beginning, like, you are the one. Like, you will never, ever bring in someone until you honor that piece for yourself. Like, you are the one. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer to learn because that acceptance piece is fucking huge. It is absolutely huge. And so until you can be okay with accepting yourself and not knowing the pieces that you know about yourself, not going to learn. And it was like, we couldn't conceptualize it.
Yeah.
For years and years and years and years.
Yeah.
And we did so many different pieces of embodiment work around this. Anyway, she had a 2-month break from working with me, 2 or 3 months. And I get this message from her. I've realized that you are the energetics empress and I need to work you. I
like that title.
I know. I was like, oh, I know.
Yes, as you should.
And I said, yeah, I was pretty much like, bro, like, if you're saying this, I want you to be actually ready to go there this time.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine, I mean, obviously I'm not her coach, you are, but I'm imagining that every single tool or technique or process or every time you guys met up, there was just, you're chipping away at the armor. You're chipping away,
100%,
chipping away, because it's not a one and done. It's not just it happens overnight.
Yeah.
It's not a flick of a switch or a swallow of a pill. It's the little bits of pieces that the macro will be affected if you keep working at the tiny little micro things, right? And so I'm imagining
100%.
that she started like softening and letting her guard down and letting the armor start to move away. And so good on her to continue the journey, because that's what it's about. It's never ending. I think some people think, oh, I'm going to be healed when I'm going to do this, right? And it's the playing outside ourselves game.
Well, that's the thing, right? It was a very slow chip away for us over the years. And I think anyone who thinks coming into a healing journey immediately is going to be one and done,
right?
They're off their tree. Let's just be honest, right? But yeah, like when setting this intention, I don't think she realized the intensity of her doing it, because it wasn't. I was like, I need you to be there.
Yeah.
Anyway, this one session, I just like intuitively guided. I do a lot of processes with my Reiki mastership and stuff like that. And I guided her through this one process, and she sat there howling. Like, think of a 2-year-old girl howling to the point where they're like, I just need my mom. Like, and she made this realization that her uncle had made a comment to her when she was little. And her mom was trying to comfort her in that moment. But she made, through the lens that she was looking at her uncle, she thought her mom was doing the same thing.
Oh.
So she blocked her mom from loving her. And so she spent her whole life thinking that she had a feminine wound when it was actually a masculine wound. And so she got to let her mum in that moment.
Oh, wow. What a gift.
And with that moment, she came out realizing how many people are trying to love her.
Oh,
Right. And that's the thing. We are so blind to it when we're hurt.
of course. We don't trust
And
people.
No, I give this task so much to people. Like I just say to them, I'm like, I just want you to spend a week just noticing who's trying to love you. And that can be a phone call. Like they're trying to call you, you don't want to answer the phone. You're like, oh, fuck this guy. I don't want to talk to this person. Like,
Right.
they're calling you because they're trying to love you.
Right.
Right. It might be a coffee that someone pays for you. It might be like a simple thought of like, oh, I was thinking of you, so I send you a text. All of these ways that people are trying to love us, and we block it.
Well, we're so
doing this
not used to
financially.
be in that receivership role. We're so used to giving as women. That's the programming,
Yeah.
right? And then is it actually safe to receive? Is it actually safe
Yeah.
to get something from someone else without an expectation I have to do something in return?
100%. And this is the work, right?
Yeah.
Because when we start looking at where am I being loved and actually sitting in it rather than going, oh, I've got to counteract that.
Correct.
Now I've got to bring back something in that. When we can sit in it, we start making more money. We start having better sex.
Right.
Everything starts amplifying. And it all comes back down to the one principle of love. Right? Like everything's connected. Everything. And I think when we start to look at that, like for her as an example, she had spent a lot of her life having dreams and pushing them away because she thought she couldn't do it.
Wow. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
And this was
that's a
all because
lot
of this
of
one
people.
comment.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
many people.
Yeah, but 100%. And this is what I mean by that one voice.
Yeah. That one voice.
And so I'd challenge any single person who's listening to this. If you're not where you want to be and you need something all the time, whose voice is it? And like, they will own you until you own it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. And it's like that old story of like, your story will hold power over you until you're willing to share it.
And then once that happens, you take your power back, and then you feel even more, not in an egoic way, but more powerful from an internal perspective of like, I own my worth. I own my value. I get to decide how I'm treated, what I want to do, how I want to create, and things like that. And I wasn't taught that. I was told, play by the rules, do what society says, be the robot, and it's so common. And so I love the fact that you are sharing that such the diversity of women that you work with from all over the world and cultures and backgrounds, that there is a common theme. And could it be fair to say that no one really escapes it?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that 1 second. Not that they can't. I don't mean escape. I'm saying everyone experiences it to some degree until they recognize it and then work with it. I didn't mean like we can't ever get past it.
All right. And I think this comes back to the saying, like I see a lot of my clients, they say the whole, but it wasn't as bad as such and such. And this
it crushes
riles me because I'm like, I've been through so much shit. I know you have. And time doesn't trump trauma.
Nope.
Like, it doesn't. It was something in your view, it was small, micro, or if it was something massive, however your body's holding that, that's what matters.
Exactly.
And yeah, I think I used to do this a lot as a young child. Like my parents were drug addicts. And so I would be like, oh, but at least my mum's at home.
Yeah. You would justify.
Right? I would justify, oh, but at least I have this, but at least I have that.
Yep.
Like, and, I would make it so what I experienced was okay.
Exactly.
And so I ran around for months, for years, being like, wasn't that bad.
Right.
Wasn't that bad.
And that's when we end up settling for breadcrumbs because that's what we're used to. We're like, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's the people pleasing. It's the good girl. No, it's okay. It's fine. And I just love the fact that, you're presencing this here because, self included, so many women are in that vicious cycle of justification
Yeah.
and staying in relationships too long or not having those conversations soon enough and things like that. And it's almost always when we do the scary thing, when once the scary thing is done, it's like, well, why did I wait so long? Like, what was I thinking?
Mm. I think too, there's another caveat to that because, like, when we are in trauma, a lot of the time women are protecting the perpetrator. And what I mean by that is, like, this is no way in a super, super bad scenario. My dad didn't do anything horrible to me. So this is not one of those I'm downplaying things.
Okay.
But, like, there were lots of moments when my dad wasn't around, like, at all. And he was a really shitty dad at times. Like, and a couple of years back, I got published in a book. So excited. I said, Dad, I'm going to share my story. I can't wait.
I remember this.
Yeah. And his response was, so you're going to tell the whole world how shit of a dad I was? And I was just like, oh, that's not, because, like, my dad's a great dad now. Like, he's really, like, just to give everyone clarity, like, my parents are clean now. We've been through a whole journey together. But it was one of those things where it was like, oh, like, that's the only view he had of himself. And I was like, that's actually not the story I shared, Dad.
Yeah, good.
I shared the story of our recovery together. I shared the story of our triumph as a family together. I didn't share the nitty gritty details because that's not who he is.
Right.
And it's like, I know the drugs are the drugs and you are you. There's a very different thing between those two. And he couldn't comprehend that piece. And so it was one of those pieces where I had to really be honest with myself there and just be like, no, I get to stand in there rather than trying to protect him further. Because even though I wasn't protecting him from anything bad,
Right.
people get so scared to even share the tiniest micro moment because what if someone knows?
Right. Of course.
Right.
Of course. And that's the shame part.
I was just about to say, like, guilt reveals, shame conceals,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And so the people who are guilty, they'll unconsciously seed things, so it comes up. Whereas those who are in shame, who are often the victim of the circumstance, they conceal it.
Yeah.
And shame binds you to a previous story of karma.
Right. Wow.
So it's like when you can clear that, well, not even clear that, but just own it.
Yeah. Just start
It no longer
working
holds
with
power
it,
over you.
being with it, working with it, allowing it. Like that's the game. It's not to say, I think we just said that, 20 minutes ago, there's not an end point. It's, can I be in the game? Can I be in the essence? Can I be in the allowing space of, and get so curious about it, get so courageous to face it and be like, wow, this is real for me. Like, this is, holy shit. Cool. Great. What do I want to do with that? Because if I go into self-judgment, if I go into, criticizing and just really beating myself beat up around it, it's not doing anybody any good,
Yeah. There's one thing that's coming through really loudly I just want to share as well. And this is coming back to that, what's the thing that women have in common?
Okay.
And often they don't have faith.
In what?
Right. In a higher power, in
Got it.
something like that. Like they say they do,
Got it.
but they disconnect from it when it's convenient. Right. And so when they really hold their power, that staying power. And so for me, I say God, it's whatever it is.
I say Gus, God, universe,
right?
or spirit.
I love that, right?
Me and Gus talk a lot.
Like I'm not speaking about God from any sense of a religious context.
Right.
I'm speaking about it from literally the same essence that you are. And I think when we can look at it from this perspective of like, there's got to be something bigger at play, right? But often when we're caught in our own stuff, we can't see that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, rather than being in it so deeply, it's just getting curious. Like, if I'm gifted this experience, for what purpose? Show me the way, God. Because if there's one thing that I know is every single woman who's in the line of work that myself and you are, they're not here for no reason. They're here because of their experiences and they're the chain breaker.
Yeah.
And if they're listening to this, it's usually because they're here to do something for themselves. And so my question for you is like, where is your faith? Because I know for me, it started with men. It showed patterns in men. It showed where I didn't trust, right? It showed where I was available for abuse. It showed where I wasn't honoring myself.
Where you were settling. Yeah.
Then it came, then it came through the father, as in my father, right? As in, because it like progressed, like the deeper the layer.
Yeah.
And then I realized it was actually in my conversations with God, the father, right? And so when we look at it from that context, the provision, and I stopped looking for provision in men and I started looking from it for a higher sense. And that's when life really shifted. And I still have moments where my ego comes in and be like,
well, we're still human. Are you not human?
Oh, I'm so human. I had a whole human moment like 2 days ago where I was like,
and I love this shift of conversation with that higher Gus. And because there's so much more available when we have that kind of conversation. Like literally, I'll have a conversation and be like, I am so grateful for, I received today the home I live in. I received today the air I breathe, the sun, the walk I got to go down in nature, like whatever it might be. And it's that this is what I'm being provided with. And that's magic.
And I think people really don't understand that piece
yet.
Right? It's
that's
like,
why we're here.
Yeah. Totally. Like, I used to get really caught up in this. I used to think like if I wanted a successful business, it was all about the money.
Yeah. Same.
But one thing that I've really, I've learned through this work so deeply, it's like, abundance isn't money. Abundance is a state of being.
It's
money
energy.
is a byproduct. Yeah. And like I've learned, it's like I've had money come in from so many different sources that are not my business. And there was a time where I'd be like, it has to come from my business. It has to be this. And I know we've navigated that too, you and I, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, what if I was just being gifted this because of the service that I'm in? And this is God's way of showing.
Exactly.
And
I also love that if you were to look down the line of where it came from, it ultimately came from Gus, God, universe, or spirit. It did maybe it came from, a grandparent when they whatever it came, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it came in down the line because it's currency, so it's constantly moving.
And flow. If you look at the language pattern of money, currency, right?
Exactly.
It's from flow.
Yeah.
Banks, a river bank, right? Like there's so many like ways in which it's like weaved through. There's like a heap of other ones too. I can't even remember off the top of my head. But I've seen these whole like documentaries on like how they built the bank system. Like a reserve is like a nature reserve. Like there's all these different ways. And so if you really look and you think about the energy of money, like it wants to flow through you.
For sure.
Like at the deepest levels. And if we're blocked with all our
bullshit,
own stuff, bullshit,
BS, right? Belief systems, bullshit, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, but if we're blocked with all of that, and not able to receive it, it's different. And like, I don't mean to say like just because you've got trauma, you can't have money, because you can have both.
Absolutely,
you can. Like, you see a lot of fucked up people in the world with a lot of money. Right?
Correct.
All comes down to what you're willing and open and available for.
Exactly.
And I was talking with my mentor about this just literally yesterday. And I was saying to her, I was like, I've noticed a theme at the moment of like, I'm getting all these people at the moment who want to work for me. Right. And I'm like, in the last week, I've had like 10 people reaching out being like, I want to do this for your business. I want to work for you. I want you to pay me. And I'm like, so interesting, right? It's usually clients reaching out to work with me, but now it's still wanting to work for me. And she's just like, are you available for clients at the moment? And I was like, interesting, because I've been saying, we're going to Texas, I'm so busy, oh my God. And so I was like, I'm putting out there, no, I'm not. And energetically, I'm putting out, I need support. So of course, all these people are coming in going, I can do this for you, I can do this for you, I can do this for you. And I'm like, so interesting. This is just the vibration I'm holding right now. And so I'm like, thank you, universe. Thank God
Ta-da!
for listening to me.
Amazing, amazing. Well, as we start to wrap up
Yeah.
this conversation, oh, this is so good. What's one tip or one practice that the listener can start practicing today, implementing today in their lives to give them support?
Yeah. Honestly, this is such a basic one. I call it ceremony with self, but it's literally just get quiet. Sit down. Sit your ass fucking down and just start noticing. There's nothing you need to do from there. It's just like just on the other side of I have this little spot that I sit. And around it, there's cards, there's my journals, there's crystals, there's all my little witchy woo. But 9 times out of 10 when I'm sitting there, I'm just quiet.
Good. Yeah.
And
It's powerful.
giving room. Yeah, but just giving room for the stillness.
Yep.
I remember, just to give a real quick story in this, years ago, like my first ever coach that I hired, this was way before I worked with Preston or anything like that. I was at a standstill in my business where I was like moving from personal trainer through to coach. I just studied under it and I really wanted my business to go massive and I couldn't get there. And I was just breaking up with this person. And I was like, I was in this mastermind, it's an in-person mastermind. And we get given this opportunity where you sit down and there's 8 other women and you share what's present for you and where you're stuck in business. And all of them give you a piece of it. They're all like the mastermind I was in, it was like doctors, lawyers, like in high level women. I was so out of my depth, right? Like I was like 25 at the time. And I'm sitting there and I just start blurting out, thinking about all the things. And AJ, my coach, she just goes, no one say a word. Casey, I want you to go home and do nothing. And I was like, what? She goes, I want you to go home and do nothing.
Yep.
And I looked at her and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I've paid you thousands of dollars for you to tell me to do fucking nothing. And for about a week, I sat and now I fucking tell me to do fucking nothing. Yeah, I didn't listen, right? And then one day I was so angry and I was like, fuck it. And I just sat on the couch. I put my phone down and just sat on the couch. And I just looked around and I realized in that moment just how much resistance I'd been in. And so I closed my eyes down. And the minute I closed my eyes down, boom.
Wow.
And I became addicted to that process, like that high that you get.
Yep.
And I was like, what the fuck I'd never had it before. I'd never
I can
had
very
that
much
connection
relate
with
to
a
that.
person. Yeah. And I was just like, hold on, because I was available for it at that moment.
Absolutely.
But then what happened was like about 3 weeks into this process, I noticed I started undoing a lot of my sabotaging behavior. And I was like, all people really need to do is undo these behaviors. I built a whole fucking course called Undone that became the bread and butter of my business for 2 years from sitting down and doing nothing.
Amazing.
And yeah, and it just started to just pop off. Like, and this was in person. This was before online. Like I had people coming to me all over my hometown to do this course, and it was amazing. It was so great. And this is why I say like quietness, shows clarity. But it's in that receptivity of it is like, yeah. So it's like being quiet changed my life.
Yeah. I had a coach that I paid quite a chunk of change for. We worked together for 6 months, and one of her exercises to give me was sit and do nothing and just sit in silence. And she said to me, you know, just set your timer for a minute. Just start in a minute. She was very lovely. She was very like just soft and gentle and just, 1 minute. And I'm thinking, and I was already in a Kundalini yoga practice, but in Kundalini yoga, you're active, you're breathing, your mantras, you're moving your body, you're doing all the things. And so I'm thinking, I can do that. And so I sit down, I put my phone down, I set it for a minute, and I go in, I'm like, okay, cool. I know what I'm doing, whatever. And I get into my position, and I'm not even kidding you, Casey, like 10, 15 seconds went by, and I'm like, has it been like a minute yet? It took me, first off, I was pissed off. I'm like, how has it only been 20 seconds? I had no idea. I had no clue that silence and stillness was so hard. And so I built up a practice to sit for 33 minutes, and I did that for years. And it is priceless, to be honest, to actually just sit with your shit, whatever it might be. So the one tip today for everyone listening is sit and be in stillness and just be with yourself and just go in with courage and curiosity and a lot of compassion, because something might surface, and just see. And if you need support, call us.
Yeah. But don't try and fix it in that moment.
No.
Like, don't suddenly be like, oh, I can do this. Like, just literally observe it. Like, do not do anything in it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So what's the best way to connect with you, Miss Casey?
Probably Instagram is easiest. Obviously, I've got my website, like casewarwick.com, all the things. But Instagram, just Case Warwick, at Case Warwick. I'm probably most active on there. Not that I have been a lot.
Do you have something you want to share with everyone today?
Yeah. So a big chunk of my work is learning which kind of CEO you are, and like from an energetic perspective, and that can be the willful, the intellectual, the intuitive, or the embodied. Now, all four of those, I should say, have their own characteristics, but the embodied encompasses all of them. The quiz that I'm going to send you the link for, Amie.
Yeah,
and so
I will drop it in the note.
Yeah, if you want to figure out whether you're, in the willful, which is like push, hard, like no room for receivership, or if you're in the intellectual where you're over logical and not trusting in something bigger than yourself, or you're way too intuitive and quit at everything when it comes to a fear process. You think your fear is your intuition. I'm going to show you how to where you are, and it's going to give you some tips.
Amazing. So I will put that link to that quiz in the show notes. So keep an eye out for that. And then lastly, Case, what is your one daily I come first practice that you do to support and fill up your own cup in regards to mental and emotional well-being?
Mine is my stillness, but I have it with a cup of cacao. That's my thing.
I love
cacao
that.
facilitator, so that's a real big piece of my core. So
amazing. I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing from your heart, your story, your vulnerability, and these beautiful takeaways that we can practice right now. We get to start it right now. So yay. Until next time, thank you so much for all the listeners. And just please know more than anything else in the world that you matter, that you are loved, you are important, and you're fucking magnificent. So just own that, please. From my heart to yours. Until next time, we'll see you soon.